If you've ever been the family embarrassment while your sibling got all the glory, hit that like button and subscribe right now. You're not going to want to miss what happened next. My name is Elena Vasquez, and for 26 years, I was the family disappointment. The dropout. The one who couldn't finish anything. The sister who worked in customer service, while my older sister Isabella became a corporate executive at a pharmaceutical company. Isabella was everything my parents wanted. MBA from Northwestern. Director of Operations at MedTech Solutions, earning $240,000 a year. Engaged to Christopher Blackwell III, whose family owned a chain of private hospitals across Texas. They lived in a penthouse in downtown Dallas that Mom showed photos of to literally everyone she met. Me. I lived in a 750-square-foot apartment in Deep Ellum that Mom described as Elena's bohemian phase that's concerning at her age. I dropped out of college after 2 years. Couldn't handle the workload, Dad told people, his voice laden with disappointment. The truth was more complicated, but they never asked for it. The family hierarchy was established at every gathering. Isabella would discuss her latest product launch, her team management strategies, her networking at medical conferences. Christopher would talk about the Blackwell Family Foundation, their yacht club, their connections to state legislators. Me. When I mentioned my work, Mom would change the subject within 30 seconds. That's nice, dear. Isabella, tell everyone about the award you received. The award was always the conversation ender. Isabella had won Rising Star in Pharmaceutical Operations from some industry magazine. She'd had it framed, 3 copies. One in her office, one in her penthouse, one at Mom and Dad's house in the living room where everyone could see it. My parents' house had exactly 0 photos of me anywhere visible. They were all in a drawer in the guest room. I'd found them once while looking for extra blankets. The wedding planning started 18 months before the actual date. Isabella wanted perfection. A $380,000 ceremony at the Rosewood Mansion, 300 guests, designer dress, celebrity wedding planner. The Blackwell family was contributing $200,000. Mom and Dad mortgaged their house to pay for the rest. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event, Mom said, her eyes shining. Isabella deserves the wedding of her dreams. I was initially supposed to be a bridesmaid. Then I got downgraded to regular guest, when Isabella decided to only have her pharmaceutical colleagues in the wedding party, for the optics. Then 3 weeks before the wedding I got the text. I was in my apartment reviewing quarterly financials on my laptop when my phone buzzed. Elena, we need to talk about the wedding. Christopher's parents are very image conscious. They've been asking about our family. I think it's best if you don't come. You'd be more comfortable anyway. These aren't your kind of people. Hope you understand. Bella. I stared at the message for a long moment. Read it 3 times. Let the words sink in like stones in water. My own sister was uninviting me from her wedding. I typed back, understood. Nothing else. Just that one word. My phone rang immediately. Isabella. Elena, please don't be dramatic about this. I'm not being dramatic. You asked me not to come. I'm not coming. It's complicated. The Blackwells are connected to everyone in Dallas. Christopher's father golfs with the lieutenant governor. His mother is on the board of the Dallas Museum of Art. They have certain expectations. About what I do for a living. About presentation. About success. About, look, you work in customer service. You live in Deep Ellum. You drive a Honda Fit. Christopher's cousin is a state senator. His uncle owns a private equity firm. Can you understand why this might be awkward? Perfectly clear. Don't be like that. After the wedding, after things settle down, we'll do a family dinner. Just us. Sure, Bella. Enjoy your wedding. I hung up. Sat in the silence of my apartment. Looked around at my modest furniture, my small kitchen, my single bathroom that Isabella had once described as aggressively tiny. Then I opened my laptop and pulled up the calendar for the Austin Governor's Business Awards ceremony. It was scheduled for the same night as Isabella's wedding. April 15th. I'd been planning to skip the awards ceremony to attend the wedding. Not anymore. Here's what my family didn't know, what none of them had bothered to ask about in the 4 years since I'd dropped out. I didn't drop out because I couldn't handle the workload. I dropped out because I'd built something that couldn't wait. During my sophomore year at UT Austin, I'd noticed something. Every small business I talked to, restaurants, boutiques, service providers, was struggling with the same problem. They couldn't afford enterprise-level customer relationship management software. The cheap options were terrible. The good options cost $50,000 to $200,000 annually. So I built something in between. I taught myself to code. Spent every night for 8 months building a CRM platform specifically designed for small businesses. Cloud-based, intuitive interface. Priced at $99 to $299 monthly depending on features. Everything a small business needed, nothing they didn't. I called it Client Flow. I dropped out in 2020 to run it full-time. My parents thought I was throwing my life away. They didn't know I'd already signed my first 50 clients and was generating $8,000 monthly in recurring revenue. By 2021, Client Flow had 800 clients and was generating $180,000 monthly. By 2022, 3,200 clients and $640,000 monthly. By 2023, we'd hit 8,500 clients across the United States and were generating $1.9 million monthly, $22.8 million annually. I had a team of 24 people. A CFO who'd previously worked at Oracle. A head of sales who'd built 3 successful startups. A customer success team of 12 handling support tickets and onboarding. My company was valued at $87 million in our Series B funding round in January 2024. But I kept my apartment in Deep Ellum. Kept my Honda Fit. Kept showing up to family dinners in jeans and t-shirts while Isabella wore her designer suits. I worked from home most days, and when family asked what I did, I said customer service. Which was technically true. I was serving customers. Just also happened to own the company. I let them believe what they wanted to believe. Because I needed to know, would they love me without the success? Would they value me just for being Elena? The answer had always been obvious. But Isabella's text made it crystal clear. The Texas Governor's Business Awards were a big deal. Started 15 years ago to recognize young entrepreneurs who were creating jobs and driving innovation in the state. The under 30 category was particularly prestigious. Only 5 winners annually, selected from hundreds of nominees. I'd been nominated by one of my investors, a venture capitalist who sat on 3 corporate boards and had the governor's personal cell number. When I won, I'd initially planned to keep it quiet, attend the ceremony, accept the award, and let it fade into the background. But circumstances had changed. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from tonight. The awards ceremony was at the Four Seasons in Austin. Black tie, 500 attendees, live streamed on multiple platforms. Forbes was covering it. The Austin Business Journal had a full team there. Every major tech CEO in Texas would be in attendance. I bought a dress. Not just any dress. A custom Alexander McQueen in midnight blue that cost $8,000. Hair and makeup by the same team that handled Austin Fashion Week. Shoes that cost more than my monthly rent. When I looked in the mirror the night of the ceremony, I barely recognized myself. My date for the evening was Marcus Chin, CEO of a semiconductor company that had just gone public for $3.2 billion. We'd met at a founders conference in San Francisco and had stayed friends. When I told him about the situation with my sister, he'd immediately offered to attend with me. Family who dismisses you doesn't deserve you, he'd said simply. Let's make sure your success is impossible to ignore. The ceremony started at 7 p.m., exactly the same time as Isabella's wedding ceremony at the Rosewood Mansion, 200 miles north in Dallas. Governor Rebecca Martinez gave the opening remarks. The room was filled with power, CEOs, investors, politicians, journalists. I sat at a front table with Marcus, my CFO David, and 2 of my early investors. The Under 30 awards were the centerpiece of the evening. They announced the winners in reverse order, 5th place through 1st place, with increasing fanfare for each. When they got to 1st place, Governor Martinez returned to the podium. Our final Under 30 award winner, she said, represents the kind of innovation Texas needs. In just 4 years, she's built a company that serves over 8,500 small businesses across America, creating 24 high-paying jobs right here in Austin, with revenue exceeding $22 million annually and a company valuation of $87 million. Photos of Client Flow appeared on the massive screens flanking the stage. Screenshots of our platform, testimonials from happy clients, graphs showing our explosive growth. She's a first-generation college student who dropped out to pursue her vision. She taught herself to code. She's disrupted an industry dominated by giants. And she's just 26 years old. The room was silent, hanging on every word. Please welcome to the stage, Elena Vasquez, founder and CEO of Client Flow. The room erupted in applause. I stood, Marcus squeezing my hand supportively. Walked to the stage in my $8,000 dress and $1,200 shoes. Shook hands with the governor of Texas. Governor Martinez handed me a crystal trophy. Heavy, substantial, impossibly more prestigious than Isabella's Industry Magazine award. Elena, the governor said into the microphone, tell us what drove you to build Client Flow. I took the microphone, looked out at 500 of the most powerful people in Texas business and spoke clearly. I built Client Flow because I saw small business owners being underserved. They needed tools to compete but couldn't afford them. I wanted to democratize access to technology that could transform their businesses. And you dropped out of college to do this? I did. It was the hardest decision of my life. My family didn't understand. They thought I was throwing away my future. I paused. Turns out I was building it. The room laughed and applauded. What advice would you give to young entrepreneurs whose families don't support them? Build it anyway, I said firmly. The people who truly love you will celebrate your success when they see it. And if they don't? Then you've built something even more important, your independence. More applause, louder this time. The governor posed with me for photos. Professional photographers captured the moment from every angle. The governor handing me the trophy, both of us smiling, the Client Flow logo on the screens behind us. Forbes posted the photos to social media within minutes. Tagged me, tagged Client Flow, tagged the governor. The caption read, Elena Vasquez, 26, receives the prestigious Governor's Under 30 CEO Award for building an $87 million company that's revolutionizing small business technology. Hashtag Texas Tech, hashtag Women in Business, hashtag Under 30 Inch. The post went viral immediately. 50,000 likes in the first hour. Comments from business leaders, entrepreneurs, journalists. Shares from major tech accounts. While Isabella was saying her vows at the Rosewood Mansion, I was trending on social media. My phone started buzzing incessantly. I'd silenced it for the ceremony, but I could feel it vibrating in my clutch. Text after text after text. I ignored it. Focused on the evening. Networked with CEOs who wanted to talk about Client Flow's growth strategy. Spoke with journalists who wanted interviews. Posed for more photos with Marcus, with my team, with other award winners. At 10 p.m. during the reception I finally checked my phone. 127 unread messages. The first was from my college roommate. Elena. You're on Forbes. The governor. What the actual fuck? Then my former study group. You built an $87 million company? Then people I hadn't talked to in years. All variations of the same shock and congratulations. And then buried in the avalanche. Mom. That. Isabella. Mom's message was time-stamped 7:47 p.m. during Isabella's wedding reception. Elena, people are showing me photos of you with the governor? Is this real? Please call me. Dad's was time-stamped 8:15 p.m. We need to talk about what we're seeing online. Why didn't you tell us? Isabella's was time-stamped 9:03 p.m. My wedding guests are all on their phones looking at your Forbes feature. You did this on purpose. On my wedding day. How could you? I put my phone away without responding. Marcus noticed my expression. Family. Family. You okay? Better than okay, I said. For the first time in my life, I don't need their approval. The aftermath was spectacular. By midnight, the Forbes article had 200,000 shares. The photos of me with the governor were everywhere. Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. Business publications were requesting interviews. Venture capital firms were emailing about Series C funding discussions. Client Flow's website traffic increased 847% overnight. We received 2,300 demo requests in 24 hours. Our sales team was overwhelmed. The Texas business community was small and interconnected. It took less than 48 hours for the news to reach Christopher's parents. Isabella called me Sunday afternoon, 2 days after her wedding. I was in my apartment, still in my Client Flow t-shirt and sweatpants, reviewing demo request prioritization with my sales team over Zoom. I let it ring. She called again. I declined the call. She texted, "We need to talk. Please." I replied. You uninvited me from your wedding because I'd embarrass you. What's left to talk about? I didn't know. You didn't know because you never asked. You assumed. Please, Elena. Christopher's parents saw the Forbes article. They're asking why you weren't at the wedding. They think we're in a fight. This is making us look bad. I stared at that message for a long moment. Then typed, not my problem. Enjoy your marriage. She didn't respond. Mom called an hour later. I answered mostly because I was curious. Elena Maria Vasquez, what is going on? Hi, Mom. Don't hi, Mom me. An $87 million company? The governor? Forbes? And you didn't tell us. You never asked what I actually did for work. You said customer service. I do customer service. I'm serving 8,500 customers. I just also happen to own the company. Silence on the other end. Why didn't you tell us? Her voice cracked slightly. Would you have believed me? What? If I'd told you 4 years ago that I was building a company, that I'd dropped out of school to be an entrepreneur, would you have supported me? Or would you have told me I was throwing my life away? More silence. You have to understand, Elena. We were worried. You dropped out, you were living in that tiny apartment, you never seemed to have any money. I was reinvesting everything into the company. That's how startups work. We didn't know that. You didn't explain. I shouldn't have to explain myself to earn basic respect from my own family. My voice was calm but firm. For 4 years, you've treated me like a failure. You've dismissed my work, patronized my choices, and compared me unfavorably to Isabella at every single opportunity. We never meant. Mom. Isabella uninvited me from her wedding because I would embarrass her in front of the Blackwells. That's not a misunderstanding. That's not poor communication. That's how little she thought of me. How little you all thought of me. She didn't mean it like that. She meant it exactly like that. And you know what? She was right to uninvite me. Because I would have embarrassed her, just not the way she thought. Hit that subscribe button if you've ever had to prove yourself to people who should have believed in you from the start, because what happened next changed everything. Mom tried to salvage the conversation. Christopher's parents want to meet you. They're very impressed. They said. Let me stop you there, I interrupted. The Blackwells want to meet me now because Forbes said I'm successful. Not because I'm Isabella's sister. Not because I'm worth knowing as a person. Because I have monetary value to them. That's not fair. It's completely fair. It's the same reason Isabella uninvited me. I had no value to her social climbing. Now I do. But that doesn't mean I'm available for use. Elena, please. This is tearing our family apart. No, Mom. This is revealing what our family actually is. There's a difference. I hung up. Turned my phone on Do Not Disturb. Got back to work. The business community's response was overwhelming. Within 1 week I had interview requests from Forbes, Business Insider, TechCrunch, and the Wall Street Journal. Speaking invitations from 3 major tech conferences. Series C funding offers from 7 venture capital firms. Acquisition inquiries from 2 public companies which I declined. Invitations to join 2 corporate boards. A request to speak at UT Austin's business school commencement. David, my CFO, was fielding calls nonstop. Elena, we need to hire a PR person. This is beyond what I can manage alongside the financials. Do it. Find someone good. We hired Rebecca Chin, no relation to Marcus. A former tech PR executive who'd worked with 3 unicorn startups. Her first advice, lean into your story. Young Latina founder, college dropout, built an $87 million company from nothing. That's the narrative investors and press are hungry for. I'm not going to exploit my ethnicity for marketing. I'm not suggesting exploitation. I'm suggesting authenticity. Your story matters. There are thousands of Latina entrepreneurs who need to see someone like them succeed. Don't hide from that. He was right. I did 3 major interviews that month. Each one, I talked about being a first-generation student, about the pressure to follow a traditional path, about the risk of dropping out, about building something from nothing. The response was incredible. I received hundreds of emails from young women, from first-generation students, from people whose families didn't understand their entrepreneurial ambitions. They told me my story gave them courage. Meanwhile, Isabella's life was imploding in slow motion. The Blackwell family, it turned out, was obsessed with status and connections. When they discovered Isabella had deliberately excluded her sister, the sister who was now a celebrated entrepreneur with the governor's personal endorsement, they were furious. Christopher's mother, Margaret Blackwell, was particularly angry. She sat on multiple charity boards and was deeply involved in Dallas high society. Having a connection to a successful young tech CEO would have been valuable for her nonprofit work and social standing. Isabella had cost her that connection. Christopher called me 3 weeks after the wedding. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Elena, this is Christopher Blackwell. We haven't formally met. I know who you are. I'm calling to apologize for what happened with the wedding. Isabella made a mistake. Isabella made a choice, I corrected. A deliberate one. She was stressed. Wedding planning, the pressure from both families trying to make everything perfect. Christopher, I don't care about the excuses. Your fiancé, sorry, your wife, uninvited me from her wedding because she thought I'd embarrass her. That's not stress. That's judgment. That's her actual opinion of me. She didn't know about your company. And that's precisely the problem. She never bothered to ask. None of them did. They saw what they wanted to see. A dropout, a failure, someone beneath them. Now I'm useful, so suddenly I matter. Silence on his end. My mother wants to invite you to lunch, he said finally. She's on the board of several charities that could benefit from technology solutions. She'd love to discuss potential partnerships with client flow. No. I'm sorry. I said no. I'm not interested in partnering with people who only value me for what I can do for them. Tell your mother I appreciate the interest, but client flow has other priorities. Elena, please be reasonable. I'm being perfectly reasonable. I'm running a business, not collecting social connections with people who dismissed me last month. I hung up. 10 minutes later, Isabella called. I let it go to voicemail. She called again. Voicemail. Voicemail. Finally, she texted, please talk to me. Christopher's family is furious. His mother is threatening to cut us off from the family foundation. She says I'm an embarrassment who doesn't understand the importance of family connections. Please. I stared at the message. The irony was so thick you could cut it with a knife. I replied, now you know how it feels to be called an embarrassment by your own family. Enjoy it. She tried calling 17 more times that day. I blocked her number. Mom showed up at my apartment the following Sunday. Just appeared at my door, which was bold considering I lived in a building with security and she didn't have the code. Someone must have let her in. Elena, we need to talk. Face to face. I considered closing the door. Instead, I let her in. My apartment suddenly felt smaller with her in it. She looked around, at my IKEA furniture, my small kitchen, my wall of photographs from my travels. Her expression was complicated, like she was seeing something that didn't compute. This is where you've been living? For 4 years. Yes. While you were building an $87 million company? While I was reinvesting every penny into growth. Yes. She sat down on my couch without being invited. Your father and I, we feel terrible. We didn't know. You didn't ask. You said you did customer service. I do. Just at a higher level than you assumed. I leaned against my kitchen counter. Mom, what do you want? Why are you here? I want to understand. Why didn't you tell us? I needed to know if you loved me without the success. If you'd value me just for being Elena. Your daughter. Not Elena the CEO, not Elena the award winner. Just Elena. Of course we love you. Do you? Because for 4 years, you've treated me like a disappointment. You've praised Isabella constantly while dismissing everything I did. You've introduced her as my daughter, the pharmaceutical executive, and me as my younger daughter who does various things. Her face crumpled slightly. I didn't realize. That's the problem. You didn't realize because you didn't care enough to look deeper. You saw what you wanted to see. A dropout who couldn't hack it in college. It never occurred to you that I might have left for a good reason. What was the reason? Really? I built something that couldn't wait. Every day I stayed in school was a day my competitors got ahead. I had clients willing to pay for my product. I had investors interested in funding me. I had a window of opportunity that would close if I didn't act. So you dropped out. So I dropped out. And you've held it against me ever since. She looked down at her hands. Your father mortgaged the house for Isabella's wedding. I know. We couldn't have done that for you. We're tapped out now. When you get married, if you want a big wedding. Mom, I don't want a big wedding. And if I did, I'd pay for it myself. I can afford it. I paused. That's not why I'm upset. I'm upset because you valued Isabella's happiness enough to mortgage your house, but you couldn't be bothered to understand what I was building. We didn't know there was anything to understand. Because you never asked. You never showed genuine interest in my life. You never wanted to know what I actually did every day. You just assumed I was failing and left it at that. The silence stretched between us like a canyon. What do you want from us, Elena? What would make this right? I want you to understand that you can't undo 4 years of dismissiveness with one conversation. I want you to recognize that your love felt conditional, dependent on me meeting your expectations of success. And I want you to understand that I don't need your validation anymore. I've built a life without it. You're our daughter. Am I? Because Isabella is the daughter you brag about. I'm the one you make excuses for. That's not. She stopped. Reconsidered. That was true. I can see that now. And I'm sorry. It was the first actual apology she'd offered. I need time, Mom. I need space to figure out what kind of relationship we can have going forward. One that's based on who I actually am, not who you wish I'd been. How much time? I don't know. Months. Maybe longer. She looked stricken. Isabella's marriage is already strained because of this. Christopher's family is furious with her. She's barely talking to us. And now you. Isabella's marriage is strained because she made a choice that backfired. That's not my responsibility to fix. She's your sister. She uninvited me from her wedding, Mom. She told me I'd embarrass her. That's not sisterly love. That's contempt. She's sorry. I'm sure she is. Sorry that it blew up in her face. Sorry that it's causing her social problems. But I don't think she's actually sorry for how she treated me. She's just sorry about the consequences. Mom stood up, her movements heavy. I should go. Yeah. At the door she turned back. Your father wants to see you. Will you consider having dinner with us? Eventually. Not yet. When? When I'm ready. When I trust that you want to see me, not just manage the situation. She left. I closed the door, leaned against it, and exhaled slowly. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Saw your mom's car leaving your building. You okay? He'd been monitoring the situation, concerned about my family showing up unexpectedly. I'm okay. Standing my ground. Good. You deserve better. Don't settle for less. I smiled at the phone. Chosen family, I was learning, was often better than biological family. Over the next 3 months, the transformation was complete. Client Flow secured $32 million in Series C funding, valuing the company at $124 million. We hired 18 more people. Opened a second office in San Francisco. Signed partnerships with 3 major small business associations. I was invited to speak at South by Southwest about entrepreneurship and resilience. 5,000 people attended. Standing room only. The Wall Street Journal did a feature profile. Elena Vasquez, the dropout who built an empire while her family wasn't looking. The article detailed everything. The family dynamics, Isabella's wedding, the governor's award timing. It was honest and unflinching. My PR person had advised against being so candid, but I insisted. People need to know the real story, I'd said. Not the sanitized version. The response was overwhelming. Thousands of people shared their own stories of family dismissal, of being underestimated, of having to prove themselves to people who should have believed in them from the start. Isabella's marriage, meanwhile, was crumbling. The Blackwell family had made it clear. She'd embarrassed them by excluding me. Margaret Blackwell had explicitly told her that family connections matter more than you realized, and you burned one of the most valuable ones. Christopher was caught between his wife and his family. The stress was destroying their relationship. Isabella sent me a letter in July, handwritten, 8 pages. It arrived at my apartment via certified mail. In it she detailed her regrets. How the wedding planning had consumed her, how desperate she'd been to impress the Blackwells, how she'd convinced herself that excluding me was protecting me from an uncomfortable situation rather than protecting herself from embarrassment. I was wrong, she wrote. I was cruel. I was so focused on impressing people who didn't matter that I destroyed my relationship with someone who should have mattered most. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I need you to know I see what I did. I see what I destroyed. And I'm sorry. I read the letter 3 times. Sat with it for a week. Thought about what kind of relationship, if any, I wanted with her going forward. Eventually I wrote back. 1 page. I appreciate your apology. I believe you're sorry. But sorry doesn't undo the damage or rebuild trust. I need time to determine if we can have a relationship that's based on mutual respect, not just guilt and obligation. Maybe someday we can get there. Not today. I didn't hear from her again for months. In September, 6 months after the awards ceremony, I bought a house. A beautiful modern home in Travis Heights with 3 bedrooms, a home office, and a studio space for the photography hobby I'd maintained throughout everything. Floor-to-ceiling windows, a view of downtown Austin, 2,800 square feet of peace and light. Cost $1.4 million. I paid cash. My parents found out through Facebook. I'd posted a photo with the caption, "New chapter," showing my living room view. Dad called. We hadn't spoken since the awards ceremony aftermath. "Elena, can we talk?" "We're talking. I mean really talk. In person." "Why?" "Because I owe you an apology. A real one. And I can't do it over the phone." Something in his voice was different. Smaller maybe. More honest. "Hey, coffee. Public place. 1 hour. Thank you." We met at a cafe in South Congress. Dad showed up looking older than I remembered, wearing jeans and a polo instead of his usual business casual. He ordered coffee, waited until we sat down, and then said something I'd never heard from him before. "I failed you." I said nothing. Let him continue. "I projected my own fears onto you. I built my business the traditional way, college, MBA, corporate job, then entrepreneurship. When you dropped out, I saw it as recklessness, as failure, as you throwing away opportunities I'd worked so hard to give you. I didn't throw anything away. I know that now. But I didn't know it then. And instead of asking, instead of trusting you, I judged you." His hands gripped his coffee cup. "Your mother and I both did. We treated Isabella like she was succeeding and you like you were failing. And the whole time you were building something extraordinary. I was. And you never noticed. We never looked. That's worse." He met my eyes. "I'm not asking for immediate forgiveness. I'm not asking you to forget 4 years of disappointment and dismissiveness. I'm just asking for a chance to build something new. A relationship based on who you actually are, not who I thought you should be." That's exactly what I told Mom. She told me. She said you needed time and space. I'm here to say, take all the time you need. But please don't close the door completely. Leave it open a crack. Let me prove I can do better. I studied him. Looked for signs of manipulation, of self-interest. Found only genuine regret. "Okay," I said finally. 1 coffee every month. Just like this. Public place, 1 hour. We get to know each other. Really know each other. No assumptions, no judgments. I'll take it. We've been meeting monthly since then. Slowly, carefully, we're building something that might eventually resemble a healthy father-daughter relationship. It's not what either of us imagined, but it's honest. If you've ever had to walk away to save yourself, tell me your story in the comments. Does any of this feel familiar? What would you have done? Isabella and Christopher separated in December, 8 months after their $380,000 wedding. The marriage lasted less than a year. The Blackwell family's pressure, combined with Christopher's resentment of Isabella's strategic error, made the relationship unsustainable. Isabella moved back in with our parents. She's in therapy now, working through her role in the family dynamics and her own choices. We've exchanged a few texts, brief, cordial, nothing substantial. I'm not ready for more than that. Maybe someday. Mom and I have coffee occasionally. The relationship is careful, bounded, but improving. She's making an effort to understand my work, to ask genuine questions, to listen instead of judge. Client flow hit $42 million in annual revenue last quarter. We're on track for $50 million this year. The company is thriving, growing, succeeding beyond my original projections. But the real success isn't the money or the valuation or the awards. The real success is knowing my worth independent of their approval. Building a life that's authentically mine. Surrounding myself with people who saw my value from the beginning. Marcus, David, my team, my real friends. Last month I was invited to speak at UT Austin's business school, the school I'd dropped out of 6 years ago. 500 students attended. The dean introduced me as one of our most successful entrepreneurs, who had the courage to leave before we finished teaching her. The room laughed. I smiled. During the Q&A, a young woman raised her hand. How did you handle your family not supporting you? I thought about Isabella's text. About mom's dismissiveness. About dad's disappointment. About 4 years of being treated like a failure while building an empire. I built it anyway, I said simply. The people who truly love you will celebrate your success when they see it. And if they don't? Then you've built something even more important than a company. You've built your independence. The room erupted in applause. After the speech, dozens of students wanted to talk, to share their own stories of unsupportive families, to ask advice about taking risks their parents didn't understand. I stayed for 2 hours talking to each one, sharing what I'd learned. Because here's the truth they don't tell you about success. It's not about proving yourself to people who doubted you. It's about building something so authentic, so true to yourself, that their doubt becomes irrelevant. Isabella thought I'd embarrass her at her wedding. In a way she was right. Just not the way she imagined. While she was performing for the Blackwells, I was receiving recognition from the governor. While she was trying to impress people who didn't matter, I was building something that would outlast all of their opinions. The greatest revenge isn't proving them wrong. It's building a life so fulfilling that their approval becomes unnecessary. I'm 28 now. Client flow is valued at $124 million in climbing. I own a beautiful home. I have genuine friendships. I'm building relationships with my parents based on honesty instead of performance. And Isabella? She's figuring out who she is without the Blackwell family approval, without her executive title she quit after the separation, without the validation she'd built her identity around. Maybe she'll find herself. Maybe we'll eventually rebuild our relationship. Maybe not. Either way I'm okay. Because I learned the most important lesson of all. Your worth doesn't come from family approval or societal validation or impressive titles. Your worth comes from building something true, something yours, something that reflects who you actually are. And no one, not family, not in-laws, not anyone, can take that away from you. The trophy from the governor sits on my desk. Not because it proves anything to anyone else, but because it reminds me, I built this. On my own terms. Without permission. Without approval. And it was worth every single second of being underestimated.